You are listening to UPRN, United Public Radio Network, coming to you live on 105.
Looking for stories that are fresh and new? Dark fantasy, humor, space exploration, time travel, cyberpunk, alternate history, and more. They're in the L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future anthology. From 24 award-winning authors and illustrators, plus art and writing tips and bonus stories. L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future. Buy your copy at galaxypress.com, Amazon, or wherever books are sold.
All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. Yes, it is that time of year again. There's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards, UFO Undercover, in the category of entertainment. UFO Undercover brings you some of the most revealing and current research that is being done with respect to alien abductions and contact. Host Joe Montaldo has been an abduction researcher for over 35 years and is uniquely qualified to bring you live interviews with some of the most well-known researchers in ufology. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate UFO Undercover in the category of entertainment. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and get out and vote now.
All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The Outer Realm in the category of Best Female Hosted Podcast. The Outer Realm is a very popular show hosted by Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, which boasts millions of listeners each week who are well known for and have been complimented on their very laid-back, roundtable style of interviewing. Together, this dynamic duo brings you the best of the best with guests from around the world who are well-versed within their respective fields of ufology, paranormal, esoteric, and other areas of high strangeness, and more. So go to podcastawards.com to nominate The Outer Realm in the category Best Female Hosted Podcast. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and do it now.
And you're just tuning in. I know some of you are. I've already seen you here. Hello, Sandra. I'm glad you're here. Something new we just added. Sorry, we found out just before we went live. We've got the People's Choice Podcast Awards coming on. But first of all, let me introduce ourselves. If you're just listening or you are watching, you're listening to United Public Radio Network, otherwise known as UFO Paranormal Radio Network, or just UPRN. And you're listening on 105.3 and 107.7 out in the beautiful city of New Orleans in Louisiana. I am your host of the Angel Rock. My name's Lorilei Potvin. I'm also a co-host on a newer show on Thursday nights called The Thing at the Foot of the Bed with my amazing co-host, David Hansel. And that's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you don't know me, welcome. And if you're returning, we've got quite a few usual returning viewers. If you want to join in the conversation, please head over to UFO Paranormal Radio, either on Facebook or YouTube. You can also go to my YouTube channel and my Facebook profile. And we've got many places on Facebook as well with UPRN, the main page. We've got Joe, some of the ads you're going to see on the show. My YouTube channel is called The Angel Rock with Lorilei Potvin, and Facebook profile is under Lorilei Potvin. It's public, so you can watch it there as well. I'm going to get to my amazing guest and fellow newer host in just a sec. Just a few housekeeping things. Excuse me. First of all, I'm a Canadian clairvoyant medium, crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, spiritual teacher and mentor, and registered nurse, and very well versed in the paranormal. I want to give Joe Montaldo a shout out. It's actually my 4-year anniversary this week, and I'm celebrating because I love this network. Love it. I've been on previous networks and nobody, and yes, I'm kissing Joe's butt, but it is the truth. One of the best networks I've ever been on before. So if you like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends, because we have something for everybody here. We have new shows and new hosts, like my amazing guest, who I will introduce in a sec, and check it out. And even when we're not broadcasting live, because we have quite a few shows stacked one on one, and we always have new hosts and new shows coming, as well as some of us oldie moldies like me. Not calling us old, but I've been here for a bit. So check it out, because the archive server is running when we're not live. So this network's been around for close to, I believe, 25 years. So there's shows all the way back to then. So there's some incredible shows, hosts, content. You will see we also have people that syndicate to the network. So there's something for everybody here. So one more thing. I'm going through my head. I don't have a script, you guys. This is memorized. We are on UPRN, we are on UPRN. We are on Roku. We have our own channel, and it's called UFO Paranormal Radio. If you want to find it, I don't have a channel code for you. So the easiest way to do it is to sign into your Roku account. You're going to go to the channel store, type in UFO space P as in paranormal. You're going to get a list coming down. We're about the third or fourth from the top. And you click on that and you can watch our content on TV. Now on to my amazing guest, who I'm going to read her bio that I wrote. So please, and you can correct me, Adriana, if I mess up your name. I'm sorry. We got a curveball right before. So what I have with me is Adriana Fierastrau. Is it Fierastrau?
Fierastrau.
Fierastrau. I was close. I was close. I was memorizing it, and then I had to think of other things. She's a fellow Canadian and UPRN host of her own show, Negotiating Happiness, live Mondays from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is amazing, you guys. I share it with everybody. And honestly, I do. I call it liquid gold. You're going to find out why when we talk with her. So Adriana is the owner of Ontario Assistant, a virtual business development company that caters to small businesses and entrepreneurs with a legal background and a focus on operational efficiency. And I've already gained some tips from her and made my life so much easier. Adriana specializes. Oh, we almost lost you there. Hang on. Of course, I had to hit the screen. Sorry, Adriana specializes in setting up new platforms, developing marketing practices, and updating the online presence for business owners. We're going to be chatting tonight about all of that and much more. Welcome, Adriana. Did I miss anything?
No, this is great. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I love the show.
Oh, I know. I've seen you in the audience, so thank you. I know you attend both shows, and we love having other hosts. Whenever there's hosts in the chat, I always say to them, you guys, let us know who you are, where your show is. I usually try and shout you out. Most of you guys I know. I don't think there's anybody who had in that I don't know what night they're there. So Sandra says, yay, it started. Oh, Sandra just added a tip. She goes, you can also search while logged into the Roku app, and it'll show up there as well. It will for you. But the reason why I appreciate that, Sandra, I really do, because while we were looking for it when we first started Roku, we couldn't, it was really hard to find, but probably because it was new, right? And there's programming on Roku. I think that's what it is. So thank you for that hint. I really appreciate it. So let's talk about your show, because we're going to talk about all kinds of things, but I really do tell people all about your show, whether I'm on air or off air. And I literally have nicknamed it Liquid Gold, because
you're so sweet.
Well, I'm going to tell a quick story. I try to stay up on business practices and what have you. And you know, I don't know why I never thought of this. And I've almost got it all set up. You sent me an invite to your show and had a ball on there. And it was so beautiful. It was like all set up. Like I have it all saved, and I'm usually emailing it, and it came with a calendar, and I could pick the date that I need to come on, because what happens with me with dealing with people overseas and stuff, by the time they get back to me, it ends up like 40 or 50 emails sometimes in. I'm not kidding, with busy people. So amazing.
Yeah. So, and it also, what used to kill me is figuring out what time zones we were in. So this way, with automatic schedulers, it's easy because it adapts to the time that they're in. Or it gives them reminders, it gives them confirmations of.
Yeah, I do all that myself. And like
that's crazy. Don't do it. That's crazy. Yeah.
I send time converters. Like I do everything to make it so easy for my guest. And this is so simple. And there are really good free versions even out there.
Correct. Yeah. And I mean, the most used one is Calendly, I think, but the one that I was using for you was Dubsado, because it's one of the CRMs that I use. So if that's all you're going to use, then this wouldn't be something for you, because it's a lot more complex for your business. But if you just want the scheduler, there's definitely free schedulers out there, especially if you're not, dealing in volume.
Yeah.
So if you're just having like, like once a week, or the way that I do it is I just kind of send out invites in bulk, like every, I don't know, 2 months or every month. So then it's all kind of going through at the same time. Yeah, there's just so much tech out there that could make all of this so much easier for especially because I call them solopreneurs, right? Not I, everybody calls them solopreneurs. And we just don't have the time to burn in all of the admin and all of that, especially if you're doing research, right? Or especially if you're trying to attend events or networking or whatever else, right? So the easier that I can make things for people, the better. And I try to include all of that when I do an operational efficiency assessment.
Give me 1 sec here. Excuse
Yeah.
me. Go lay down. My family knows I'm live. So what they do, let the beast in. The beast shows up it's not the beast, it's Emmy, sorry.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right about this. And the other thing I love, and we're not just going to talk all business to guys.
No.
But I think that this is really important, because where I was going with that statement before Emmy jumped in here is that the way you tailor your show, and I've watched quite a few of your shows, is it's not just any information or anything that's available that I came up with, and you work smarter, not harder. I know it's a cliche, but it's not tailored to one business. Like I'm, with the Angel Rock stuff that I do stuff on the side as well with many different aspects. There's truth seeking. I know I sent you a message before. I meet with 2 friends. They're all around the world, and we connect usually weekly. And none of us have a paid Zoom account because we don't use it enough. And what did I find? I found Ring Central gives you everything with Zoom. You could broadcast, and it's added so many more aspects to it. But that's what I love about your show. It could go anywhere from being a psychic medium to having an online business and anything you could possibly think of, right?
Yeah, or a side hustle or a brick and mortar business. I have clients that have, up to like 50 employees, or I have clients that are just online and they just occupy the digital space, right? So it's easy once you kind of have the basics to understand that we have a lot of these solutions at our fingertips. We're just not focused in on it. So for today, for the show, I actually talked about 3 easy ways to achieve a work-life balance instantly. And these are 3, I talked about 3 things that you can start doing today, right? Not just, when I get money, or, when I feel like it, or, when we try to start like eating healthier.
Can you give us one tip?
That.
Because I want people to go watch your show so that they're going to know, like, hey, I need to watch this.
For sure. So I'll give you a quick rundown, actually.
You have to give them all to us. Just even give us one, and then they can go watch your show, because that's why we try to have, fellow hosts on each other's shows, because we all have different audiences. So.
Right. So I kind of focused on, one was regarding setting boundaries and establishing routines, right? So I had a tip there. The second one was to delegate and outsource. So what I mean by delegate and outsource is not hire somebody. I gave a tip that could be achieved today, right now, right?
I love it.
Even if you're not at that moment in your business, you can still delegate to current tech to do things for you right now.
Delegation is hard, because nobody does things like you do. So I'm going to be watching that show, because I'm not a control freak. But I am. But I'm not. But I know from past experience that somebody like myself, I know what my standards are and what my quality and what I want to put out with my clients. But I want to, how do you find somebody that's going to match that or be able to follow what you're setting up? So I really like that you're going to cover that Or you
It's
did cover
hard.
in today's
Yeah,
show?
and we did talk about, hiring as well after, but I mostly focused on what can you do today to delegate some of that.
Okay,
And
that's awesome.
the third tip had to do about prioritizing self-care. And I talk about how I hate that term self-care because my self-care is not the same as your self-care,
Mhm.
right? So what I did is I'll give you that tip because that one was something that I said, you know what, everybody can do it, male, female. Um, I talked about grounding or earthing,
So important.
right? So important. And I was able to tie it into this whole like spiritual realm that I'm super interested in. So I tried to make
I
my
knew we were going to
episode.
go there
I know,
eventually.
but it's because I don't think that they're in separate boxes, right? So I
Mhm.
think that they're together. And I think that once you realize how everything is connected in your life, you make your life easier, right?
Mhm.
So that's the one thing tip that I gave is
I
I
love
talked
it.
about earthing. I talked about, like we live in Canada, so 6 months out of the year is beautiful, but then the other 6 months you can't go outside and dig your feet into
True.
grass because
Yeah.
that's not possible. So I kind of just like showed people on Amazon. I'm not affiliated with any of those companies that do grounding mats or, people even have bedding that you
Mhm.
can plug into so that at night you can sleep. We had a couple of statistics. It reduces inflammation in the body. It
Oh,
reduces stress. It's scientific. You can't deny this. And it also kind of goes together with the spiritual side. So I love it. I tried to find things that make sense for the very scientific, logical mind and also for the spiritual mind. I feel like this is such a perfect blend on this network because we do have a lot of um, you know, shows that have a lot of the paranormal and UFO, and depending on what you're interested in. Plus, now we're putting into play this lifestyle of being an entrepreneur. So I love to talk on my show about how you can be happy because at the end of the day, regardless if you're making the money or not, are you happy spiritually? Are you happy in your own life? Are you being fulfilled? And we talk about everything about parenting, about um, like what do you like to do for fun? I know this is basic, but when you're so stressed out and burnt out,
yeah.
you forget about the fact that you need to take a break, that you
Yeah.
need to enjoy what you're doing, and you need to do it smart, not hard. Like because I think this hustle culture thing has us all in this like frenzy of like go 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 go, and that's not good for you. We're not meant to do that as
No,
humans.
and there's a saying, that I learned when I first went into this journey years ago about, you can't pour from an empty cup, but it's true. And
Exactly.
it doesn't matter whether you're in a spiritual business or you're the CEO of a
Mhm.
multi-million-dollar company,
Yeah.
especially when you're the head of something or you're the sole entrepreneur. It all rests on you. So I love that you talked about delegation today. I love that, like you said, you do need to be happy. Like there's so many people working right now that hate their job. It's just a paycheck. And what I've been saying, and I wanted to add this too, is that people in my age group, I'm going to be 58 in August, and this is no diss on anybody, and I'm not saying everybody is in this boat. But there are a lot of people out there that are not technologically savvy. They don't make use of social media. They're still in the mindset that you must have a brick and mortar. And for people listening halfway around the world wondering what that is, it's an actual building, like a place, a store, a
Yeah.
shop, an office. And you have the whole world at your feet with the internet. So somebody
Mhm.
like you, Adriana, to be able to work with and get people used to, change of mind. You have to be open-minded about it. And
Yeah.
I'd seriously considered for a while, and I'm not an expert, but I spent so much time with people talking to them within my age group. I'd say around 40-ish or so, maybe a little older and beyond. And don't get me wrong, I've met 85-year-olds that are incredible technology wizards
Sure.
and have
Sure.
picked it up. But
Yep.
people can't seem to get past the mindset of I must have a store. Like even with my healing and psychic business, people ask me all the time, why don't you have a store? Well, why don't you have people to your house? And I always say, first of all, I
Right.
don't say it to them, but I think, my God, all the paranormal stuff we've been through, I don't need somebody else's spiritual, whatever it may be, or energetic or attachments or anything. Just keep it at your house. Science has shown that
Yes.
energy work does not need to have somebody. I've worked with people in Japan. Plus, I also very quickly, do I still, oh yeah. So where I can use your business tips, and I want to show people this. I'm in the midst of launching a resin business. I have 3 books I'm still working on to get out there, and I want to pull it all together under an umbrella. And I've talked with you about it, and you've been so helpful, and we're hoping to do some work in the future together.
Yeah.
But for example, the resin business, that brings me joy. That's where I make a lot of connection with spirit. But pulling it all together, and the main thing people miss, you have the whole world at your feet.
Yeah.
When you make use of technology. Would I be right about that?
Correct. Correct. And while not everybody might have the opportunity to use technology, and certain technology can be pricey, I think that if you're clear on your direction and what you want to do, somebody like me could help, because they know so many platforms, or they've worked with so many people. There's a solution out there. You just have to be very forward thinking that, listen, this is my idea, this is my message, be open to suggestion, and you will get to that solution yourself, right? I work with a lot of people who, like you said, they've started businesses a long time ago and they've been very successful, but this could be
Things have
debated.
changed over the last 3 years,
especially so much. And I was going to say, unfortunately or fortunately, right, depending on which side of the spectrum you are, it's gotten like a giant push forward, right? Whereas I think it was going to take us a lot longer to figure out that we can work remotely probably every day of our lives, right? I was also in, I guess you'd call it the corporate world, right?
Yeah.
Before COVID, before I had my son, and I was not happy. And and out of that came this desire to help other businesses.
You're reading my mind, because I was just going to go there with you. How did you get into this?
We're connected. We are connected. Because I always knew I wanted to work for myself. I just didn't know how. And then I realized that throughout my roles, throughout school and my adult jobs, careers, whatever, I always had these odd sort of tasks that always kind of came to me. It's like I was attracting all the, can you figure out this? So I was the puzzle, yeah, I know how to do that, or I know how to fix that problem, or I know how to do blah, 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 even though that might not have been on my list as, like, let's say a paralegal, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of took that and I said, I can help somebody open their own business. And now I've evolved, and I am generally working with clients that have had a business for a while and they want to keep going. They want to change things, make things more efficient. It's a lot about resource restructuring, right? So if you make a certain amount of money and you're putting some aside for your business development to sort of scale and grow, that's where I can come in and we can do some analysis to say, okay, well, you're spending, most people, I have to say that most business owners have no idea how much they're spending on subscriptions to things. Zero clue. Zero. Their bookkeeper might know, but they don't. And then they come to the realization, once I talk to them, that a lot of these subscriptions overlap. So like they have very similar capabilities. And I'm like, why are you paying for 2? Like, why are you, we could do it here with this and this. And they're like, oh, okay. So this,
they just didn't know, right?
Yeah,
because it was like me too. And I had an appointment system, for example, set up with my readings, but I don't always just do readings and healing stuff. So I've gotten to the point now where I'm going, like, people just contact me. I'll work with you. We'll work around your schedule. And this way we're doing that. And it's being foolish. I wasn't aware of just yet what I could find or put enough energy into it to, I figured it out probably eventually, but there's somebody like you that, you know the ins and outs. You're doing this every day. Like I always say, if your toilet broke, for example, right? Could you fix it? The global you, could you fix it? Yeah, probably after watching some YouTube videos and running to the store and doing this and doing that. But
I wouldn't try.
Well, so would I, but it may not. Like, for example, our air conditioner, the floor unit, the hose kept falling off the back. I got a great deal. Young couple bought their first new house. They had air conditioning in it. So they sold it just before the snow fell here in Canada last year. Yeah. But there was a piece that was missing in the back. So could we fix it? Probably eventually. or, you got to go out and buy a bunch of stuff. It might work. But then again, I'm not going to call someone in for the air conditioner. That's why I use plumbing, right? Or electricity. It may hold, it may work, but to have it done properly, you're going to call in somebody that's doing it every day is what I'm saying. They'll know exactly what'll work.
Of course, you're actually going to end up wasting a lot of time. And I do this exercise with people.
And money.
And money, yeah. I do this exercise with people where I'm like, okay, so you're going to spend 5 to 10 to 15 hours a month doing all the admin, the back and forth, when you could be spending 5 of those 15 and making the same money doing what you're good at.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe spending 10 doing what you're good at and making double what you've just lost because you're not thinking about delegating or how to use your hello everybody in the chat because you're not using your critical thinking skills, like math, and it's because we're taught, I feel like especially women, that we just need to deal with stuff that comes up, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just
and
need to deal
it.
with it. Yeah, you just need to deal with it, and that's so far from the truth, right? Mm-hmm. That's so like, no, do some math and see what you can afford, or call that plumber in because it's a necessary thing to do, and you'll see the return on the investment eventually when you're starting to cut out that whole 50 email situation. I gave an example on my show today. It took me one time working as a paralegal, 11 emails to schedule one appointment. And
that's me. I know what you're talking about.
From that day, I was like, there has to be a better way.
Yeah, I was being facetious with 50, but I kid you not. Like it's sometimes it's 10, 15 emails back and forth.
Yeah. And it's just not feasible. And what I love about the system that I use, which I'm sure is very similar to a lot of them, like Calendly and whatnot, is they give you a rescheduling link with your confirmation or a canceling link. So you don't even have to talk to them, even if you have to reschedule. They just go in and pop them in. All you have to do is make sure that you're giving them the right availability on the link, which is, I'll give you an example. I don't want to talk to discovery calls, so brand new sales calls, every day of the week. So they're only scheduled in 2 days of the week. So that's what the link will show them. So as long as I keep up with, taking off the days that I want to take off for vacation, you're golden. You're avoiding the 11 email chain that will take one person to book in, especially if you're working with people across the globe, right? It's just not feasible. And I think that time could be used for developing further ideas.
I agree.
Or finishing books. Or finishing books or making more resin art, right?
I dread it. I have at least 30 people, and I think there's probably going to be more. And bless his heart, I have worked with the best PR agent over in Wales. He sends me the best guests. I never meet these people till the minute they come on. Like I really don't. I have 2 minutes to connect with them and we talk. And I don't get nervous about it. I love meeting new people. And then I get to really genuinely find out about them because we haven't talked. So it's kind of a very generic, but honest and truthful conversation, right? Where we're coming from, getting to know each other, and people get to see that. But to get there, that's been I literally was hitting myself in my forehead going, why did I never think of this when you sent me? So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I went with Calendly. I can't remember when I did. I still have a few things I have to tweak, like what you were just talking about, the follow-up stuff, because you do need to set it up.
Yeah.
But I used the letter you had. I never copied anything you did, but I went with the format. So I knew what to plug in.
Yeah.
Like where, but none of the wording is the same because we have 2 completely different shows and business types.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Or
because
pre-records. I love what you did for pre-records because we do pre-record with people. We can do that if they can't make the time of our show live, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of giving them a heads up of what are you doing? Here's what it is. It's already done. If you have to tweak things for them specifically, you still can, but why are you either writing up that email 10 times, or why are you copying and pasting, but you have to first find it in your inbox? Like it's just such a time suck for everybody. So that's the first thing you do is try to automate all the bits and pieces where you don't need to be present.
And you know what I just thought of that's really helpful for people that are listening to this, because they're used to, and we are going to the spiritual and the weird and the crazy.
We are.
Adriana
I'm all
loves
into
stuff.
that.
But I think this is important because, guys, I don't care whether you believe it or not, but in this day and age, over the last, I'd say 3 to 4 years, have you not I know you've noticed this. Every single person is doing a podcast now. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I encourage people, because I think if you've got something to say, now's the perfect time to start doing it, because, you know, over the last 3 years, pretty well everybody went through the whole, you know, you heard Netflix talking about the whole catalog had been watched by their audience pretty well. It was the perfect time. Plus, I'm finding that because things have changed so much, people actually really enjoy watching other people have a conversation or whatever that may be, because I think that that's why reality TV, which really isn't reality, but why it took off. People enjoy that kind of thing, right? And it's growing gangbusters right now. So this will be so helpful for people that are thinking of starting a podcast or possibly podcasting too, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. If you are, you definitely should listen to a couple before. And honestly, like I always say this, I'm not speaking from a place of expertise. I'm speaking from a place of learning, because anything that I bring forward, I've tried, or I'm in the process of trying, or, you know, like the business stuff. Yeah, I know a little bit more about that stuff than the regular person, or else I wouldn't have any business. But just the other stuff, the like, how do I combine it with spirituality, how to be happy, how to run a podcast, or how to do all of that. It's kind of like trial and error. And I encourage anybody that wants to learn a little bit or have a little bit of fun conversation with other entrepreneurs to come and listen in on the show. It literally was started with the idea that I've learned little hacks and bits and pieces that I can then, you know, share with the world. So welcome, and send me questions, send me all kinds of topics. If you want me to talk about it, I'm super open. Well, I think we're a little bit, oh no, I think I'm frozen. Did we lose Lorilei? I'm not sure.
Move, dog. Move, please.
Hi. There we go.
I'm not sure. I was just getting ready, you guys. I don't know. We've got a lot of cloud. Sometimes this will happen. I just pulled my tripod. I was trying to move my dog. I have 3 different devices set up. So if you're hi, Susan, welcome. So if the signal goes, it may be me. And when we get bad weather, sometimes that happens. Just hang in there. And I know Adriana will hang in there, and I will be back here. Like I was just getting on my phone to log in. I got everything set up. So we're back now, though, right?
Yep, we're back now.
Good.
I thought the internet was going. Yeah, no, I was just saying that if anybody wants to drop me a line, I'm definitely. Oh, Sandra.
It was me, Sandra. Yeah, Sandra just said it was me. I knew it had to be me. It wasn't you, Adriana. It was me. Yeah. And this happens. Okay. I have had even a Wi-Fi extender set up, everything. And if it's all cloudy and we've got some thunderstorms coming in, and without fail, it's really bad in the winter. And I'm on fiber optic, like the fastest internet, and it still does it.
Yes.
Sorry, guys. Go ahead. Sorry, you were saying it.
No, that's okay. I was just saying, like, if anybody has any topics that they want to talk about, or drop me a line, drop me a comment, and I'm definitely super interested in hearing from you guys if you wanted to learn a little bit more about it. And I do try to kind of mix in the spiritual side of things, and we've talked about mindfulness a lot, and about how to approach things from like a spiritual way, or like listening to the universe, or if you're failing, how do you deal with it? And this is just another lesson coming in. It's all about mindset. Like being a business owner or running a business, it all changes once you change your mindset for the better. And that's what I kind of try and highlight. But I am super interested in all this fun stuff that's coming out. And I don't even know if you can call it a different or new, because have you seen all the news now with all the UFOs and all the disclosure that's been happening. And people around me, if I bring it up, they still say, like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, listen, there's government agencies in the States and in Canada that are confirming this. How is nobody listening right now?
Well, I agree about that. I do. But my big thing is, why now? Like, we see all these. Thank you. Finally, sorry, I'm trying to listen to you. My dog's like, she's like a bulldozer, and I don't know what it is. I couldn't figure what was wrong, and I know what it is. It's my truck. See, I just moved it. Now she's flipping out because what happened was she was laying there and being a jerk one night when I was live. Hi, Michelle Pratt. She's from Australia. We got over here, and it fell on her, and I couldn't figure out why she kept jumping on the bed because she's afraid of the tripod. Go lay down, please, dog. Well, you know what? I guess she's joining me on the bed. I'm not letting her distract me. She's half on the bed, half off. She's so big. Anyways, back to the UFOs. My big thing is, why now? Because
I just can't believe nobody else is paying attention. Like, why?
Because they've been throwing this at us. Like, right? Think about it. Like, the U.S. government, I'm sorry, I love all my friends are in the U.S. I adore people. Most of my friends are in the U.S. Lots in Australia too, and the U.K. But my point is, right, the U.S. government has been coming out. We should have kept Joe on here to talk UFOs. I'm going to give Joe Montaldo a shout out, by the way. He's the one that provides this platform for us. He's also part of, he's up for our podcast awards that we played at the beginning of the show. Same as Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano with the Outer Realm. And thank you, Joe. But that's his area, UFOs and aliens and what have you. Mm-hmm. And they've been dangling this carrot saying they're going to disclose, they're going to disclose, they're going to have disclosure. And they never do. Like, have you seen some of the stuff they put out? Like pure pages, completely blacked out, redacted, and that's their disclosure.
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm. I know. Some of it is pretty interesting. Some of it is like, okay, like, why are you even trying now? I was just making a point that, like, I'm so into this stuff and a lot of it is happening right now, but it looks like nobody's paying attention. Here we are on the network with all these different shows that are actually talking about it. But I don't know, maybe I just live in a bubble out here. I'm like an hour and a half away from Toronto in Ontario, right? So I don't know what everybody else is doing. It's not like I'm super remote. I'm not.
Right.
You know, but
people, like, it's kind of like what I always say, right? That people live in a bubble. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but there is so much to be aware of and to know during your life. There really is, right? Like right now, you've got a young, adorable child. And so, like, parenthood. And yes, we love to talk about parenthood. Doesn't matter what age your kids are, right? So we talk about it and what your work is and what you're doing. But for example, there's a movie that came out recently from Mel Gibson. I won't say the name because we're on YouTube and the whole bit. I guess I could probably say the name if I can remember what the heck it's called. It just went out of my head. It's got Jim Caviezel in it. Okay, it went with a very small studio.
Hold on, and I think I know.
It came out, and it's an interesting story about Tim Ballard from Homeland Security, and he's rescuing children, because you have to be careful about the words we're using. But you would not believe the backlash I got, and I didn't post it on social media. I sent it privately to people. And, you know, right away, the conspiracy theories came out. Hate that word too. But my whole point is, right? And I think it was my partner that said this to me. And at first I got annoyed with him. And then I realized, you know what? I think he's right. He said, this isn't going to change anything. And I said, well, what do you mean it's not going to change anything? He said, lore. He goes, exactly what we're just talking about. People will take notice of it. Either A, believe it. B, take note of it and say, yeah, it was a good movie. I'm sad about it, and move on with life because it's there, right? It doesn't affect me. And it's the same thing with UFOs and aliens, I think, or it could be anything like autism with my son. That when I tell people what the rates are now versus what they were 35 to 40 years of diagnosis, people are stunned. Or even with the movie I just addressed, they even said one line in the movie, it's an ugly subject nobody wants to hear about, or the amount of people that don't know or have never heard of it, right? And same as with UFOs and aliens. I bet you could, not that we would name them, but I'm sure you have met so many people, as have I, depending who you speak to, that have no idea about aliens and UFOs, and they think it's crazy and it doesn't exist and that we're nut bars for talking about it. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
Such an interesting question.
If you don't want to answer it, it's okay. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No. I'm just thinking of how to say it all. I think we're just comfortable, so it's easier.
There
So
you
yeah,
go.
like,
I think
you
there's
know,
too
like,
much in life. That's what I'm talking about, the bubble, right? So we're surrounded
yeah,
by what we go through every day in our life. Like
yeah,
if we have children or even grandkids or pets, whatever it is, we become
yeah,
the expert of whom we take care of. Then we've got our jobs, and then we try
yeah.
and slip in a little bit more. And it's like our lives are already full enough, like to pile something else on if we're not affected by it. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, I just think that that's by design, though, not by
Oh,
nature.
yeah.
So I think this is on purpose to kind of keep us occupied and kind of being like worker bees, right? I don't think we're in tune at all with what's going on,
Agreed.
with just like living, taking a breath, and like especially in North America. Like, I'm born in Romania, and in Europe, and for the most part, not everybody, right? They have a much more relaxed view on life. They have a much more um, slow like pace on life. I think they're way more in tune with how, how we're supposed to live as humans, right? They don't go shopping for 2 weeks for grocery shopping. They go shopping every 3 days, and they have fresh food, more, lots of vegetables, more organic, more whatever. So I think it depends, right? They don't work a 9 to 5, or they don't work 50 hours a week like we do. I think we just do so much because we think that we have to in order to be successful, in order to be like a good citizen, to contribute to society. But that's just not what we're supposed to be doing. I think we're still so young here in North America. Maybe not Mexico. Mexico has really wonderful, rich history. I'm sure then, and then
It
there's,
is different. I have a
yeah,
friend that migrated from the UK to Canada, Canadian citizen, now lives there, and Mexico is completely different. Yeah.
they're really different. And I believe that all the tribes that were here before, before the English came to colonize,
Yeah.
they also understand a lot more about how we're supposed to live as people and be connected. But we, in the modern day age now, regardless if you're an immigrant or not, I'm an immigrant, right? First generation. You're just told that, okay, work, 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 put your head down, pay taxes, blah, blah, blah. So I think when you're in that, you're totally disconnected from what's going on around you. You don't spend time in nature. You're
Right.
you're not thinking of the life's bigger questions. Are we really alone? Of course we're not alone. Like, it doesn't make any sense,
People
right?
don't even think to look up. Think about it. We've never been taught to look up.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't. We
Yeah.
don't look up. Like, we
No.
don't look and see what's in the sky or,
And,
yeah.
and like, and look, like, you can see my diplomas on the wall. At the end of the day, they don't really mean anything, but I point to them because I've been taught how to research. I've been taught where to look for things. I've been taught, what are these academic processes? Like, how do we get to what we call facts, right? But nobody really tells you is like what's outside of the norm. So I'll give you an example. I felt so, I don't want to say dumb, but I felt dumb until maybe a couple months ago when I realized that there's a whole group of archaeologists that don't that are being shunned from the scientific world because of these artifacts that they keep finding that don't fit into this timeline of progress that we've been taught that it's like this on an incline.
Mm.
History's not like this, right? We're like this and turn back, and you know what I mean? But because we're so used to the idea of time, and history is on a linear path as well, that we kind of were like, no, not enough people in these communities agree. So if you don't agree with the majority, you are shunned. But they talk about all of these different artifacts that are, ancient technology that shouldn't have existed in the periods that they've been dated by, right? Like, shouldn't have been around, or the materials are very weird, or, and this makes you wonder. It's like, okay, what else have we been not taught? Because if I remember, evolution is so clean cut in our textbooks, and I don't think that's at all the way that we've, I don't think it's possible. Like if you really sit and think about it, and a lot of the times when people talk about climate change, maybe this is common knowledge, maybe I'm just being ridiculous, but we've gone through multiple ice ages.
Agreed.
We don't like
but we'll be like, we could probably say it without saying it too many times, again being on YouTube, but if you don't go with the narrative, right, and agree with everybody,
you get shunned. And I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe it was the CIA that came up with the term conspiracy theorist
after JFK assassination.
Yeah. So it's not an actual thing. I think it just became one of those terms that they decided to push out to be able to shun people that ask too many questions. So, and I mean, how are you going to call people talking about UFOs conspiracy theorists when the government literally came out and said, oops, yeah, we just didn't tell you guys because we thought it would create mass panic. Like, you can't call them conspiracy theorists when they've been right all along. Like,
I call it truth seeking. I really don't like that term. I'm going to read a few comments. Sorry, go ahead and then I'll read a few comments.
No, I'm just saying, because it's not a natural term. It's a term made to control, right?
And then you have to, I'm going to read just 1 second, then we get into the term of being woke versus being awake. I don't really like labeling people. And to me, you hear the cliche term of, we need to think outside the box. Well, how about we think for ourselves? We all have brains. We can all get together and have a conversation. We don't have to agree. Just have to hear each other, sometimes agree to disagree. But how about we don't have a box? There is no box. So we don't have to think outside the box.
Yeah.
Right. And I think like-minded people, especially whether it's a spirituality field or whatever it may be, and people like to separate things, right? We've got paranormal over here. We've got ufology over here. We've got cryptids over here. And then we've got the woo-woos in the middle, or spirituality, not me calling us that. That's what people name it, right?
Yes.
But you really, when you break it all down, you can't separate it. When you start following the trail and seeing where this goes and this goes and this goes, they all overlap. And even with your show, I'm going to go back to that for a second. That's what I love about it. Like you said, coming from a spirituality basis of where you're coming, but the stuff that you share can be used in any field whatsoever. And I think if we could just recognize that we don't need to be so separate, and we don't need to have somebody tell us what to do as an adult. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are people, my son is 25 and is, no disrespect, very much like a 5 to 7-year-old. Yes, he's going to need to have somebody around to help guide him, but I still try to let him think for himself. But this is where I think what we're losing, never mind with history, like you said, it really only takes about a generation to a generation and a half too, before if the first history was never recorded the way it happened, 2 generations later, people are believing that's the way it was versus what maybe really happened. Just let me read Sandra's comment. She said, I have a couple people mention hearing about the UFO stuff coming out and asking me if it's real or bogus. So have I. Have you had that too? Like, people just don't know what to think.
Yeah, no, I have. Or if I mention it to people that I know are usually interested in it, they're kind of shocked even, right? Like, they're kind of shocked, and you don't know what to tell them, because you're like, well, I don't know. Is it?
I always ask them, what do you think? Because they have to be thinking about it if they're asking, right? So whether people will say, like David, my co-host from Thursday night, him and I go live on TikTok. We try Wednesday nights and we do some free readings, and we, do a little bit of chat and talking, and it's to promote the show, right? Thursday night. Yeah. And I get so many people will ask questions, and I'm not saying it with any judgment for anybody listening to this. I say this with love, but people will say, are the signs that I've been seeing, is it from my mom, or is it from so-and-so, or is my husband cheating on me? We had that question.
Oh, man.
And I always say to people, what do you think? Because it has to be on your mind in some kind of capacity. To me, it kind of feels like people are needing validation, right? And sometimes we do, but I think we know the answer. Sometimes we just don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I've had a lot of readings actually where the answer to my question were, you already know. right? Which
We
is
all know.
which is exactly that. Are you listening to yourself? Are you just wanting it to be a different question? But also, I think we have to be careful. Like if we're asking these things in public too, depending on who your audience is, might change the whole vibe of the conversation, of the answers you're getting, the quality of education that you're getting. I mean, I love the internet, but also it's a free for all for everybody. So you
You have
have
to
to
be
be very
discerning.
careful.
You have to
Yeah,
be
you have to be
discerning.
very careful. I think that TikTok specifically could be great, but I also think that people just kind of like, they
I
do
am
whatever they want.
astounded on Friday nights. If you guys need some entertainment, and I'm not being rude, I swear to God to you, I'm getting goosebumps telling you, and then I'm going to read
Yeah,
Michelle's comment. I am astounded what I see on camera, what people are doing all around the world. And you just hit the live button and you can oh my God, I got goosebumps and goosebumps. Like I can't even begin to tell you some of the things I have seen across the world that you would never think you'd ever see on a video. And I'm not talking in a good way.
yeah,
I have seen, oh, you name it, I've probably seen it on there. It
yeah.
is mind blowing to me. So I hear you.
I can't go on the live section because I'm on like the witch talk side of the TikTok sometimes where I get a lot
Okay,
of
so you
those
get a lot of
videos.
that.
And I'm like, I can't go see live. No, I cannot see what people are doing live and spreading it as like, how people get a bad name for some of the stuff. I'll give you an example. So yesterday I attended, I promise this will make sense. I attended this event for one of my clients. They teach about religions around the world. And the first day was Wicca. And people have a lot of bad
Mhm.
misconceptions about Wicca.
Sure
It
do.
is newer, but it's heavily based in pagan,
So is
um,
Christianity, and people don't want to accept
exactly.
that.
Exactly. Well, this specific event does a really, really good job of
Mhm.
explaining where the history comes from and what our
Well,
biases
you have
are.
to share with me.
And yes, I have to send it to you. And it's called the Western lens is what the lecture talked about, which
Oh,
is kind
cool.
of like how we view things is not how the rest of the world views some of these religions. So we have to basically actively break away from what we've been taught to be able to embrace these religions or participate or whatever it is. So yesterday was Wicca, and it was the Wiccan Church of Canada that came out, and we went to a park in Toronto, and we
Okay.
had a ritual, which we can't film the ritual, but we could film before and after, and it was one of the most positive, enlightening things that I've ever experienced.
Mhm.
And I don't practice. I'm just
Mhm.
interested, right? I just want to
There's
learn.
nothing wrong with that.
And
Mhm.
it's so funny because throughout the lecturer had to keep saying, let me be clear, they don't worship, the devil or Satan or whatever it is. They worship the lady, which is often referred to as the earth, and then the
I
Lord,
call
which is
her
often
Gaia.
referred to as the sky. So
Mhm.
it's just very natural. And, we all took our shoes off and we all like we were in a circle, we were connected, and I didn't feel like I was dying of I think I go off of people's energy way too much, and I think I absorb things that I'm not supposed to. So I was really aware of trying to protect my energy, but this wasn't the case here. Everything was done for you, I guess. There, and we paid homage to the four directions: south,
Mhm.
north, west, and east. The fire, air, earth, and water, and like all the elements.
Mhm.
And funny enough, there was a big bunny that came out, and there was about 50 of us. When do
Mhm.
you know that bunnies just come out and hang out for half an hour? Within
They do when
10,
you're doing what
10
you were participating in.
like 10 feet, and he's
Yep.
just standing there, and I'm like, excuse me, aren't you
Mhm.
supposed to be afraid and whatnot? But no, it's because animals sense the energy. There was nothing dark there. There was no absolutely. And they had a little art altar, and they
Mhm.
had, we did things with intention, and they explained that they do everything positive. So like that to me was such a positive experience. So when I said it to one of my friends who's also very open to this, she immediately was like, oh, how was that? Like very worried. And I had to like kind of start back up from the beginning to explain. So I think that translates to anything in this realm, anything of the unknown. It's like Michelle was it Michelle that was talking about fear?
You might have to tell people I
Yeah.
mentioned Michelle DeRoche, but she's got Wednesdays and Thursday nights here on the network with the Outer Realm with Amelia Pisano. I usually mention her show lots on Thursdays because she's right after David and I. So
Yeah. No, I meant one of the comments, but yes, Michelle. I also have done a lot of stuff with Michelle in the past.
well, we're going to read their comments because if
Yeah.
somebody's listening or on the replay, they're going to go, what the heck are they talking about?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the things I wanted to say, because
Yeah.
people think I'm a witch. And I'm not. I don't have a problem with it. I know that I have been a witch in many lifetimes. Do I know about some witchcraft? Yes. Do I practice it? No. And I've even had a good friend of mine on one show. I adore her. I need to have her on soon. And she told the most coolest story. She was joking about me something, and then she said, I said, well, people think I'm a witch, but I'm not. And she goes, sure, you're not. And she went like that, just joking, right? I guess it's the energy. And then I believe her. She said she pulled every time she does a podcast, she's over on Coast to Coast AM with her own show. And she said, I pull a tarot card. She says tarot. You can say it both ways. Obviously, I know you know that, but for our listeners. And she said, Laura, without fail, and she said, I saved it to show you every time I've done your show or we connect and we're going to do something live. She goes, I pulled the Empress card for you. And it's quite an interesting card. If you're not sure what that is or familiar, you may want to take a look. It has a lot to do with abilities and intuitiveness and magic. But where I was going to go with the Wicca stuff is, and even witchcraft, and it's taken me a long time to get here. And it doesn't freak me out because you got to remember at the beginning of my story, when I said the paranormal found us, whatever it was, identified as a man, that it was a demon and gave me its name, its spelling, which they don't do apparently, but that's by our human knowledge base that anything can be possible, right?
Yeah.
My whole point is I have met many a practitioner and people that work in this field. Excuse me, I got to grab a drink. I don't know what I got in my throat. That had they told me this in the beginning, I would have been afraid of them. But I have met many very powerful people that are able to work. If I'm going to call it walking the line between what we would call the positive on the other side and the negative, that they're able to work with both.
Yeah.
And I can see why now. And I'm going to share this very quickly. I don't usually do this much talking, but it's so much fun talking. Adriana and I get talking on air, off air. We're talking for hours. Because when I first started, like I always said, like when I met my partner, I'd already taken my angel card reading course with Doreen Virtue, who has now renounced everything. She was into the fae and a medium and everything's demonic, even yoga. I just sent something with somebody. Everything's demonic because she's a born again Christian now. But I remember meeting him and we were just friends. I'd known him my whole life, but we got together as adults. And I said, well, yeah, I only want to work with angels and I only want to work with the positive. That's why I won't do tarot cards, because I only want the positive. And I remember this had to be almost 15 years ago. And he said, Laura, you're going to be working in this field. You're going to have to be familiar with both. Yeah. And I still do. I have seen somebody with such a strong attachment. They were no longer there on camera, levitating on camera. I have seen, like I would call it a possession. I have worked with the dark more than I possibly ever care to, being labeled as a light worker. And I kept saying, I remember having a conversation with my Akashic Records mentor, and I said, like, why is this happening? I now know why it's happening. Even the triangle that I work with off air, when we connect with spirit, the other two really have only really been exposed to the light, but I have the knowledge. Don't get me wrong. I'm not an expert. I'm not saying I am, but I have the knowledge of the dark and what it feels like and what it looks like. So I can see, and I have to say, being a human being on this earth, I think we're meant to live in balance. That's why we have the opposites of each other.
I think so.
And I think we're most powerful as human beings when we can walk the line in the middle. Like if we're having to work with these type of things, what's your thoughts?
So I've thought about this a lot, and we're working with Michelle DeRoche that you mentioned. Her show is on Thursdays. she was really good at teaching us like how to protect ourselves. We did a lot of research. So that was kind of my role in it.
Mm-hmm.
Have I come have I come head to head to dark? Yes, I have.
I'm sure you have.
Yes, I have. And I made mistakes because I was learning.
That's how we learn.
I won't be making the same mistake again. Do I practice anything? No. I'm just simply here to learn. And do I think that there has to be a balance? Yes, because without the dark, you're not going to know what light feels like. And without the light, you're not going to know what dark feels like.
That's
Do
right.
I think you should use it for your own gains? No, I think that's what
Never.
people confuse as working with the dark, but there's a difference. Like, are you working to help people, or are you working to get personal gain out of it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like the dark stuff that you're kind of inviting into your own life. That is not me. Right? Like, no.
Yeah, but okay, so let's use Michelle as an example. We both adore Michelle. I've talked about her many times on the show, and the fact that I didn't know her when she consulted on our Paranormal Survivor episode. One of the biggest shocks for me, if you're listening, Michelle, you know I'm going to say this, was for me, because we have preconceived notions, which we should never have. Yeah. But she's been on so much TV. And we'll get to some of the stuff if you're open to it, because I'd love to hear more about Romania and stuff if you're open to it. Yeah. But she was one of the most humble, down-to-earth, grounded, knowledgeable people I'd ever met. There isn't a conceited bone in that woman's body.
No, I agree.
Everything she does is to help others. Yeah. Everything. Mm-hmm.
I agree. I mean, I've been with Michelle to people's houses where their kids were experiencing things. She's always obviously had a soft spot for kids. She doesn't charge for any of this stuff. I just want to put that out there.
I don't charge for the paranormal either. Nothing to do with
like
the paranormal.
You have the right to charge for whatever to make a living, get your bread. No problem. What I'm saying is this, there's a lot of people like you and Michelle that use their abilities to do good. They don't use it for personal gain, even when they could.
You know why, though? I'm going to say it, and I know Michelle said it in a sorry, I didn't mean to stop you, but I think it's important. We've used to have a paranormal panel. Say we've had a spot every, I've been here for a few years. So if we've had a spot, Joe will pull us all together, the owner of the network, and anybody that's available on the network, we all get into a panel. And I had to agree with Michelle 100% on this, because I found it myself, and anybody else that's a practitioner out there, I'm sure you're going to find the same thing. Anytime you may be getting a bit of an ego about anything, and I'm talking to global you, but wow, that worked out so great. Look at how powerful I was, or whatever, right? Spirit always finds a way of reminding you exactly who you are, and knocking you on your butt and reminding you there's no need for an ego.
Yes. Yeah. So it was never about that, right? So did we do research in Romania? We did. We went to the haunted forest. We went to.
You might have to tell people about that, because there'll be people listening that may never. Because remember, right? We go out to every country in the world. Yeah. There might be people listening going, Wait, haunted forest? What's a haunted forest?
It's called Hoia Baciu Forest, and it's really large. It covers a large portion of the country, but they've had it on a bunch of paranormal shows where there's this clearing where a lot of things happen. And so funny enough, when we went in 2013, I think we were about 4 days behind one of the shows that had it on. I forget which one it was. One of the very popular shows. So they filmed there about 4 days before we went. We kind of had to figure it all out on our own, because there are no clear directions. The clearing is not off of some road. At least it wasn't back then.
What's the name again? I got to write that down. There's a reason why, but what's the name? How do I spell it?
Hoia Baciu, Hoia. And then the second word is Baciu, Baciu.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I wanted to write that down though. Okay.
It's kind of like remote where the clearing is, and we had to kind of park the car on a hill and then use this is 2013, so like hiking apps weren't all that great, but that's how I was able to find this, was randomly through a hiking app. And it was a wild experience. I'll tell you at the end what we concluded that it was. But before this trip, I had watched a whole bunch of documentaries that are available in Romanian, because the nearest city to Hoia Baciu is Cluj-Napoca, and they have about 5 different universities, and a lot of those universities have a parapsychology department.
I love it.
And the head of the parapsychology department of one of the universities, I forget which one it was, has done a lot of research in that forest. And they came up with this idea that it gives you what you want. So if you're like an avid, UFO chaser or whatever, it will show you UFOs. If you're there for more of a paranormal experience, it'll definitely mess with you. There's a lot of forums that I remember diving into where people have gotten lost. So when we went there, we had to kind of have a buddy system, and we couldn't be too far from where we couldn't see the other pair, right? Because you just lose track of time in that forest. It's kind of wild that way.
Did you have internet though, like even when you were in the forest?
Only one of our phones did, and I think it was Michelle's. So no, we had to download like all of these maps and on the phone. So we did not have internet. We just had our cameras and we had our recorders, and we actually had one of those portable ghost boxes.
Okay, so I got to ask you one more question. Sorry, I got so many questions. When you said, okay, so you had to keep sight of each other.
Yeah.
Because you would lose track of time or get basically really lost. And do you think it was something energetic, like in the way of EMF or?
Oh, 100%. So in the clearing, when you found in the clearing, there was 5 like kind of trails that you could go off of.
Oh, wow.
So if you went too far into the forest, right, which a lot of people did, and that's how what they were reporting online was that they would get lost for hours, even though, and then they would come out and it's like, it didn't even, they thought they were there for 10 minutes and they had been lost for like 8 hours. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like you lose track of time, and you hear things. So funny enough, on one side of the clearing, because I would go in with my recorder and just, state my name, the time, whatever, we're just recording. You can hear it. One side of the forest was completely normal. You could hear birds chirping, the trees were kind of moving with the wind, like normal forest sounds. It's not a dead forest. It's very much healthy and alive. And then you'd go on the other side of the clearing and it was complete silence. Not a peep. Not a peep. And then when you kind of like had to listen for it, there's this like sound of like just a sound in the back. Yeah. So I think
I keep feeling like there's a portal or something there is what I'm picking up. Like before you even said that.
Bingo.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is.
It is. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We had done a ghost box session there and they were talking about, I was asking it. So we were kind of doing both Romanian and English, but I was translating for a while because who was coming in through was, in Romanian.
Do you know what made the noise? I'm not trying to distract you. I'm so fascinated because we didn't get into this much detail when Michelle mentioned it on one of the panels.
We think it's a portal, and once we were there,
I'll stop asking questions. Go ahead.
Documentaries were the documentaries also made sense, but what I was going to say is
there's a documentary.
There's documentaries, the Romanian documentaries that I watched before we went there. Remember, I said I did a lot of research before? Yeah. There are some English ones too. They're just not as interesting as the Romanian ones because the Romanian ones actually contain police footage. There's a couple of, and I recognized it right away because of the uniforms and how they were filming. I'll give you an example. There was this incident where all over the tree line, not here, but like maybe 10 feet up on the trees, there was the substance everywhere. And they could not figure out what it is. So you could see police officers going in like with detectors and whatever. They still have no idea what it is. So they've just concluded that it was alien of some sort. Like alien as in like unidentified, could be anything.
Look like? Could you see it? Or
it was just a substance. It was a red substance, I think, from memory. We don't know what it was. They talked about it being plasma, but it wasn't plasma. Like it was on the tree line where the clearing was. Now looking back at it, like I think it was just a byproduct of something coming in and out, but I don't know, right?
Wow.
Because I'll say this, like I'll give this example. I don't know if anybody can't see me. I'm just taking a piece of paper and I'm putting in.
We didn't know what we were going to talk about.
No, I didn't know, or else
Well,
I'd have been way more prepared. But I'm just gonna say this. So
you're going to come back on again, I hope. I'm not telling you what to do, but I hope you'll come back on.
So the reason why I said the documentaries made sense, right? When we were talking about a portal, that's what you picked up on. They would have these pictures of the night sky like this in my
Can
hand
you hold
here, like
it right up to the camera?
yeah,
Adrian?
it's
Yeah,
just
there.
kind
Okay.
of dots. It's dots. So these would have represented where they captured UFOs or the lights, where they would come in and disappear, and then they would have the next one. So then they would superimpose them, so one behind the other, and every time it would be in the same region. So that's how I think it's literally a portal where these UFOs are coming in and out. Like I think
Nothing
it's a very,
possibly underground, even like how they sometimes like got underground technology.
I don't think so. I don't know the forest that well. I mean, it's possible, right? But from where we were in that clearing, this is what was happening is
It felt more
in the
portal.
night sky.
Like
It was definitely portal. It was definitely portal. The noise, the feeling like you're in kind of this like vortexy, like, what was happening is we were there during the day and we had a little picnic. We had a little like go around. There's not a lot of traffic. The whole day that we were there was one person with a dog and then buggy and horse buggy carriage thing would just like grab by, which they were startled to even see us there, because again, I don't think there's any traffic there.
right.
And I think there's some good local stories of like, just don't go in there, like why would you go in there, right? That kind of a vibe. And as we were just there, you get this feeling of being watched. So we had this fun story that we talked about after this has happened. I wasn't aware it was happening because I was in front of what was happening behind me. So Melissa and Michelle. Melissa was also part of the research team. They were in the back. They were watching me and my partner go in doing the recordings. And Michelle and Melissa, all of a sudden, again, I'm paraphrasing from what I was told, I'm sitting there with the recorder and you can hear me on the recorder being, I feel it so heavy here. I feel like there's just something on my chest, right? As I was saying that, behind me, it looked like somebody was moving the tree branch out of the way. And Melissa is doing one of these to Michelle. Michelle, do you see this? Do you see that? Because Melissa always says, she jokes all the time. She's like, I see nothing. I hear nothing. I'm just here doing research, right? She's like, oh my God, are you seeing this? She was so excited, but also, holy cow.
Freaked out,
So,
excited, and all of that.
Yeah. And Michelle's like, yep. Yep.
And that would be typical Michelle, right? Standing there going, yep,
it's happening. And
calm.
and you just had this feeling of like you were being watched, kind of like, what are you doing? You're like smack dab in the middle of this. But funny enough, so you're picturing this clearing. Trees don't grow in the clearing, but there are little shrubs and I guess like little plants, but not enough that's why it's called a clearing, because it's kind of like a circular thing where there's no trees in there. Weird, right? And we actually asked
legend about a curse or something like that's what it feels like, that kind of energy, almost like there was a curse on one side, or maybe somebody lived there and cursed it. I don't know.
I have no idea. I've never heard of that when I was looking into it, but we did ask the ghost box, like, why this clearing exists, like what was here. And they just simply said lake. So I think it used to be a lake, and the sediment oversaturated the ground so much that trees couldn't really live in there. But I'm sure that there are way more. I mean, Romania has
got, and I don't know if this is from spirit or not. When you said lake, I kid you not, sometimes I just go with it. I literally got the vision of like geese, but the size of Canada geese. And it's not possible, but this is what I was seeing, picking up the lake and flying away with it. Like, I don't know if that's an analogy they used or like it disappeared overnight like that. It just basically, it was like it flew away. I don't know. And I don't know anything about this place.
I don't know. I don't know how I'm sure there's more to it, but that's what we were told is a lake. And we figure, like, honestly, the place is really big. Like, I forget what the square kilometer, range of this place
Right.
is, but Romania has like 2,000 years of history. So it's, it could be anything. And again, like you were saying, it's unfortunate that some of the things that probably happened were never recorded, right?
Mhm.
But I think if I were to go back there, I'd be going there with such a different outlook on
I was
things.
just thinking that, right? From where you were
Yeah.
back when you went versus where you are now. Yeah.
Yeah. But let me tell you what did happen though. As the sun was coming down, the whole clearing looked like it was about to swallow us. It looked like the trees were just like, so Michelle's looking around. She's like, hmm. And what was happening on the ghost box is they were telling me that I kind of picked up on it. It was like, is it not letting you talk? And they said yes. Right. So there was something there preventing the spirits from talking to us. And at one point, I got really upset, and this is where I made my mistake. Is like I kind of got in like on a head-to-head situation, and I shouldn't have, because I was getting so frustrated. I was tired. I was translating from one language to the other back and forth, and it was like kind of in the background, and you could tell it was just mouthing off in growly little noises and whatnot. And I basically told it to back off, and I shouldn't have. And then the spirits then came back and said, you need to go. So they warned us, so you need to go. So we're like, okay, thank you.
Well, you know
Have a
what,
great
though? I
day.
want to add to that, though, because
Mhm.
you know what? You guys have been out there, like you said, all day. Never mind the energy. And I keep feeling like a force you guys were under. Like you said, never mind everything else you were doing, translating, everything else. And yeah, like I would say, even though you might have felt like it was a mistake, I mean, it sounds like you guys were under a lot, like energetically, spiritually, everything.
Yeah,
Would I be right?
yeah, yeah, we were. It's just I shouldn't have kind of tried to tell it off. I think I was just getting so frustrated.
Maybe they
But
wanted you to. That's what I was gonna say. That's where I
yes,
was gonna go with that because they feed off that kind of stuff, right? So
yes,
let's push the
100%.
human. I'm a little hungry. I'm feeling a little drained. So let's push the human. I need a little buzz,
A
basically, of energy.
100%, yeah,
Mhm,
100%. But then the spirits were like, "You need to go," and we listened. Every time anything like that happens, we listen. We don't disrespect. We go, "Thank
mhm.
you, okay," and then we
Sorry, I
went
gotta
through.
fix that. Go ahead.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah, Michelle's comment. It was. I think it came along when I was talking about the substance on the
Right?
trees. Maybe it was something that wasn't meant to pass through. Maybe something crossed in a portal that, or maybe something went wrong because they're not really supposed to be leaving like physical evidence behind, right? And they did that time. So yeah, maybe Michelle. Maybe that's exactly what happened. Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
at
Sorry.
the end of it, though, we ran out almost. We
Yeah.
didn't even look back. I get to the hotel and I look. So it was kind of like this. My jacket had a little, like it was cinched here. It had a little
Right.
elastic. So all of my jewelry was inside. My mom's bracelet that she gave to me, gone. So I had lost it at some point. And I don't know how, because it was like a proper, like, like I don't know. I've never had problems with it. It was gone. I figured that was
Do you think
payment
they
for me
took it
being.
so they wanted you to come back?
I don't know if they wanted me to come back. I think it was a jab at me, right? I honestly think that's what it was. I don't tend to lose things like that. So this was kind of like, yeah, okay, I get it. Then that night, it was very obvious that something followed us back.
Oh,
From our
mhm.
hotel, you could see the forest, but it was somewhat away because there was no like direct road. So you have to imagine there's some hills and some villages and whatever. But if you're at the top of the hotel, you can see the direction where the forest is, right? So it definitely followed us back, and we were, because of the way that we booked, Michelle and Mel were up on, I think, a third floor, and I with my partner were like on the first floor. We weren't on the same floor regardless, right? I'm telling you, at the time, it wasn't as in tune, I think, that as I am now, but there was something in the corner of the room above
Crap.
the
Mhm.
whole night. So I'm sitting there like, cool. And I kind of knew that it wasn't there for me. I was more worried about my partner who was sound asleep, and I didn't want to like wake him up to make it worse. But I'm sitting there like, uh-huh, uh-huh, all right.
But then
But
you feel like you gotta stay awake to protect your partner anyways, because if you fall asleep, right?
but I don't think I think it just wanted me to know, to be honest. I think it just wanted me to know that it's there, because before we went to bed and that happened, We actually have it on video because we tend to bring a video camera with us, and we back it up into a corner so that we know nobody's fiddling with it in the back, right? We tell it the time, whatever, and you can see Michelle and Mel talking about what just happened, right? We're going through the footage. You can see the phone ringing. So Mel picks it up and she goes, hello. And I'm on the other line picking it up, go, hello. And it was calling us. I didn't call. She didn't call. And you can hear her being like, what do you mean? You just called. And I'm like, no, I didn't. Like, the phone rang. You called me. And she's like, no, I didn't. You called me. And again, like, we didn't program each other's like room numbers into the phone. Like, it was weird. What happened was, for probably about 6 months after that, when we got home, it kept happening. It kept happening to the work phone. But it was one of our other friends that picked up, and it was our other friends and I picked up. I was like, hello. She's like, hello, welcome to whatever store, right? And I'm like, oh, hey, so-and-so. I'm like, you called me. She's like, no, the phone just rang. Do you want me to look at your schedule? I was like, no. Right? It kept doing that, and then it kept doing that with me and Mel's cell phone too. So it wasn't just like a landline. It wasn't like, because I thought at first it was a fluke, and I was like, this is happening way too often for it to be a fluke. And a lot of the times when it was happening on the cell phone, there would be things that would be coming through. So I think it just wanted us to kind of know to back up.
Because you know what, I'm going to tell you right now, for people listening, you're probably thinking like, that can't happen. Well, David Hansel, my co-host, I'm saying for people listening, not, I know you know who David is. We were on, and Sandra was there. Sandra, if you're still here, you were in the audience. I know you were, but it was Howie who's usually here, or sometimes you'll see Ed Odell from the Rift Network, and his show's The Orion Effect. So we were on that night, last night, and his co-host Rhonda was talking about, we got into near-death experiences, and she hadn't really had an experience, but her parents had passed, and she was talking about signs from the other side. And I guess please forgive me, Rhonda, if you hear this, but I think it was your dad, you had said, nonetheless, there was an old rotary dial telephone that wasn't plugged in, but when he had passed away, the phone kept ringing. But I think they had had a conversation about that they'd send signs that they would be, to let them know they were all right on the other side, but the phone wasn't even plugged in. And I can't tell you how many people I know that have gotten cell phone and text messages from the other side that are mediums, or phones not being plugged in that ring. So, or like you said, I had another friend, she was driving, she was nowhere near her phone, and all of a sudden she hears 911, and her cell phone was on the seat, and she goes, hello? And the person says, what's your emergency? She goes, I didn't call you. And the woman goes, yes, you did. She goes, I'm not even near my phone. I'm driving. They could never figure out why or how. So I'm not really sure. I guess spirit can manipulate, or like you said, giving you a sign.
So here, let me show you something. Maybe
I'd
this
love
will
to
be
see it.
easier. Maybe it'll be easier for anybody listening, or that.
So I hope you didn't mean, I was telling this too, so anybody listening, to back you up that yes, this can absolutely happen in a variety of ways.
No, hold on. I want to do it for the visual people. I'm a visual person, so I'll show you what.
Okay.
I'll show you what
hope
we
you'll
had.
come on again, and if you've got video and stuff, we'll put some clips up and everything too.
I'll show you what we brought with us, okay? And then we'll tie it back into the cell phone thing. So this is what the Ghost Box is. It's literally a tiny radio where they take out the function of, I know where they take out the function of it stopping when you're searching. So it's literally just searching the whole time, okay?
Right.
Because they can hop on the radio waves, and that's how we're able to hear them, to talk to them, and whatnot. And this is the recorder. This is exactly what I brought with me.
I have one
a long
over
time
here.
ago, right?
Yep.
This is one of the recorders. Michelle loves these recorders. She has
I love them. I'm going to find mine while you're talking.
Right. But now, and we also had a phone. Okay. So we also had two phones that were going at the same time for recording. Why I wanted to show you this is that, why are people so apprehensive of understanding that if it can happen, we can actually talk to, spirits, I guess, they hop on the radio waves.
Yeah.
Why is it so far-fetched to understand that they could probably do that with phones too?
Well, I think people
Right?
need to understand too, they have to protect themselves. And a lot of people don't realize that, right? When you initiate conversation, because they can get mimics and stuff from the other side. So I think if you know how to work with energy, right? And know how to protect yourself and open and close, because regardless, like people think Ouija boards are so evil. There's a lot of collective energy around it that's negative, just like the Bible has a lot of positive collective energy, right? So the same thing, it doesn't matter whether it's a Ouija board, a pendulum, a recorder, a ghost box. You need to know how to open and close the session and protect yourself, I believe anyways.
I've never opened it in my own house either.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, we don't do that. So just to be clear, we don't do that. What I wanted to just show you is that if we can capture different,
every time I'm live, I can never find it, and then I'll pull it out after.
If we can capture amazing evidence on something as little as a recorder that our ears can't hear it, why are we so apprehensive in understanding that they could probably use a cell phone once they figure out how to use any of these
That's
things,
where you're going with that.
Yeah, because like it's not that like it's energy, it's hopping on different radio waves, it's reading our energy, and it's crazy to me that we're not like, somehow we have ways of validating that these are not tampered with or added on.
Those are perfect because they're old technology. I'm going to be so mad at myself because I pulled it out and I have it in my top drawer here. Obviously, Spirit doesn't want me to show it because every time I do, I could not believe I found a brand new one because that's old technology. So it's harder to manipulate to fake, though, too. That's why it's such a great thing to use for evidence.
Yes. Michelle just put a comment in there.
I was thinking about that, Michelle. You're reading my mind. Yes.
This is it. This is the Spirit phone.
So you have the Spirit phone.
So this is the same technology that is called the Spirit phone, except you get it in the big box that has a lot more power, a lot more amplifying sounds, but it's the same technology of the, oh my gosh, what is it called here? Maybe I have the book here to show you.
I know what she's talking about, though, and I know what you're talking about, Adriana, but there is actually a whole website and a faction that is working on, like that. Okay, as I said earlier in the show, think like there's no box, but with the Soul phone, I think it's actually a website, and it's new technology they're using. No, it's not Frank. My friend Augie Nost was on. I have him on every now and then. He has a podcast called Broadcast Team Alpha on YouTube. And he talks about it. It's a new thing based off of exactly what you're sharing here. And it's upgraded from what we know as ITC or intertrans communication. I didn't know about that book, though. Now I want to read that book.
So this is what the mini box that Frank had made looks like. See?
So he's no longer alive?
He is not.
Okay, because this is new tech. I'm going to find it while you're talking.
Okay.
Sorry.
So he's the one that developed the ghost box. Okay. And this is based off of these little things are based off of the same technology that he worked on. His boxes were a lot more colorful. I think they had a lot more juice to them. I'll show you one.
This is the website. It's the Soul Phone Foundation. So Michelle, it's a Spirit phone you're talking about, but it's actually called the Soul Phone. So that's where I screwed up because we were saying Spirit boxes, but that's the website, and it's a brand new foundation. Not brand new. It's been around for a couple of years, and they're building off of exactly what we're talking about, but it's going to be so refined.
Yeah, but see, this is box number 57 is what it looked like. Okay. But so just to be clear, those kinds of people would not have been able to do this if it wasn't for Frank and his
absolutely research. No, because he hit on the technology.
Yeah. So see, every single one of his boxes looks a little bit different. He used to customize them for people. That one was You could find them on eBay too. Unfortunately, the big story is that Frank had a really big heart and was making these things for
Aw.
free, and then people were turning around and selling them on eBay and whatnot.
And copying the technology, what they still do today, and then
Yeah,
selling it.
and
Okay, so
then
Michelle,
not.
I'm
Yeah,
just going to add quickly while you're looking through that, Adriana. She said, "That's it. That's it." So she meant soul phone too. We both did versus spirit. She
yeah,
goes, "Think it's more direct. For example, if you want to talk to Nana, you her understanding, and she's right. Like you could actually dial up your loved one on the other on the
yeah,
soul phone and connect with who you want to."
yeah. So this is Frank right here.
Aw.
Yeah, but let me. So I don't know if you done I did a reading with Chris Moon, who uses the
I know who
telephone.
Chris is, but I haven't done one. No.
Okay, so he calls it the telephone of the dead, which is one of Frank's boxes. Okay,
Aw.
and I've done a reading with him, and I see Michelle's comment there with if you want to talk to Nana, you can, blah blah blah. I would have to test that out for myself. I haven't actually had the opportunity to look at it, but I know with Chris Moon, with his sessions, he has a spirit guide that's basically there all the time for him. And he goes and asks that spirit to go
Yeah.
bring Nana forth or to go bring if they're there, blah, 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 or to kind of keep the peace. Because all of a sudden in my reading, it was like 40 people just crowding around and they're like, whoa, right? So I think if it's based off of that kind of technology, I get it. I don't know how
It's
they're
not
able to
released
automate
as
it.
of yet. It's like based off of what
Yeah,
Frank would have started, and
yeah.
we're not doing it justice tonight and talking. I sent you the link so you'll see what we're talking
Oh,
about.
okay.
See,
Cool.
for me, when I do mediumship, okay, I always tell people that we have free will on the other side, and the person absolutely has, the right to say yes or no, or
Yeah,
just not show up. But I'll tell you,
exactly.
I've never not had a loved one not show up. More than likely, exactly what you just said. You
Yeah.
get 40 of your closest and nearest, dearest people that absolutely adore you from the other side. And then one of my mentors taught me this technique that if you can see or feel them, to picture a waiting room and ask them all to sit
Yes.
and then come up when they're called, kind of thing.
That's the
Mhm.
visual that I get every time I get a reading.
Yeah.
100% I agree.
Yeah.
Um, so I just wanted to say, like, I haven't met Frank, but Michelle has, and Michelle has one of Frank's boxes.
Oh, I'm
But she's
sure she
always
does. Yeah.
Yeah, she's always talked so well of him. So this book that you can find on Amazon, all the proceeds actually go to the family, I believe. I think they actually have a GoFundMe up here, and it was his wife and his friends that wrote this after
So it's
he
outside the
passed.
box, it's called.
Yeah, it's called Thinking Outside the Box. Frank Sumption, creator of the Ghost Box.
Okay, no, just so people that are listening, they can see it, or if they're on the replay and you want to check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, Adriana.
Yeah, no worries. And I
We
thought it
have
was
5 minutes left. That's how
oh
quickly the show has gone by.
wow. We could
I
talk
can
all
still
day.
talk. I hope you're going to come back because I could have you on for like
Yes.
another 3 hours and keep talking.
Yes. I want to go through some more material. I actually have to. I promised
Well, we
myself.
didn't connect because I told you this before, and I've told my listeners this. I literally, like I said, I don't meet most of my guests till the minute they come on, but all I do is I connect with Spirit and I say, Spirit, where are we going with this tonight?
Yeah.
And I know that whatever they channel into my head, I mean, it's not perfect all the time, but I know that we're taking care of, and we're going to talk about what people need to hear, whether it's on the replay or it may be on, live. And I don't mean cramming it down somebody's throat saying what they need to hear, but
Yeah.
may best serve them. Let's put it that way.
Of course. Yeah. No, I totally enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.
No, I'm not kicking you off yet. We still got
No,
another
I
5
know.
minutes. It's just I
I
wanted
know,
to
but
warn you before.
I know.
I
I
know you
just
were trying to finish, and I got you kind of astray here with you were talking about the box, and I don't
I'm glad that I had these things nearby to even show them.
see. Spirit looked after you. They knew you were going
Yeah.
to talk about that tonight.
Yeah. And I'm so glad I got to include, Frank's story in this because it's a little bit sad. It talks about how the paranormal community treated him. And it's
Oh,
sad because he contributed so much to the paranormal community. I just wanted everybody to know that he was the original creator of this. And this book is his legacy, right? Like this is how you can still learn about him. And he
and
did.
his work, because if you think
Yeah.
about it, every box out there should have in tribute to Frank. He's the one that made
Yeah.
this technology, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, like when I bought that mini one, I was a student, and I couldn't go to Frank to say, hey, can you make me a box? And I don't even think that he was still making boxes by the time that I needed one. So yeah, there are other people out there that are making versions of the box, like in travel weeks. I don't think anybody at the airport would have let us walk in with the big
I don't
honking
think
box
so.
that
You know what I
had
thought?
some
I gotta tell
electrical
you
things
this
in there.
quickly. Building on a ghost box. I haven't found out what it was. I love the Foreman brothers on Paranormal Nightmare on YouTube because they use their own experiences as children to go out residentially, help people. They don't charge people. They spend their own money. It's now, they call it a TV show. I don't know if they're just showing it on YouTube or where. I don't get cable, but I'd never seen anything like this. I've heard of it. Never mind water, ITC, and what. It was Josh, the one that usually does the main part of the clearing. I don't know if you ever watched them before or not. They really get some really incredible evidence.
Yeah.
He was filming in an old jail, and it looked like it was a ghost box, but it must have had some kind of signature EMF coming off because he had his phone in front of it. And all of a sudden, like, I think that's how it was supposed to work. He was in a cell and it started going all squiggly. I swear to, I'm getting goosebumps. A face came up of somebody he was talking to through the ghost box, like a face. We're not talking pareidolia. You could see every detail on this face. And the ghost box answered when he said, was that just you I saw? And he said, yes, it was me.
So interesting, because Frank actually was playing around with a video ghost box as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I can only imagine that people have figured out ways to have images.
And it was tiny. Like, unless I missed it, because usually the guys will say, hey, we're testing out some new equipment from so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. And I'd never seen them use this. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't sit glued to absolutely every single video they do, but I've seen quite a few of them.
Yeah.
I was
What is it called
this
again?
looked like an actual face, like somebody had taken a black and white picture of somebody's face. I just blew me away.
What is it called again?
I'll send it to you. It's Paranormal Nightmare.
Okay.
I'll send it to you. So if you guys are listening and you want to find it, look up Paranormal Nightmare TV on YouTube. And it's with the Foreman brothers, Josh, Sean, and Rocky. And like, I do watch paranormal shows, but I enjoy their show because I don't think they're faking. And they go and they help people. They don't go in to antagonize. They don't leave people hanging in a worse situation. They do follow-up aftercare. They teach people how to empower themselves. And they do go back if there are any other problems, all at their own expense.
Gotcha. Oh, I found it here on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Okay.
It's their latest video, if I'm not mistaken, I think, because they usually release on the weekends, and then they'll do a live because they'll take you while they're doing their setup, whether it's residential or whatever. And then they edit it all together after all night, and then they release it as a live, and they're in the chat with you. Like, if you've got questions or whatever you do, like I said, I find them real and I really like them.
Yeah. It's I gotta look it up and see which one the last one is, but that's cool. You gave me more material to look at.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, I'm hoping you're going to come back because, like I said, I did, again, repeating myself, we didn't know what we were going to talk about. Now we do. So if you've got any other stuff you want to talk about like that, and then of course, we want to talk about your amazing podcast and show. So where do people find it? Where do they find you? How do they get a hold of you? The whole bit, what you got coming up.
Gotcha. So I'm just posting a comment here, but it's only showing on only my two.
I see it.
So maybe if you want it, you see it. Okay. But it's only on my page, I think. It's
on YouTube. It's on YouTube, showing up in the main chat. And that's where it would show up. You're right, on your pages.
Yeah, it's only when I'm doing where I'm
I'll type
broadcasting.
It.
But it's OntarioAssisted.com. That's my website. You can send me inquiries through the contact form there. And what we're working on right now is we're refining our website. We're restructuring our offers, but we're going to focus more on clients that want to set up platforms to make their lives a little bit easier. So if you have a small business and you think you need some help in regards to how to run it or operations, the back end or marketing, feel free to give me a shout. Oh, thank you. And to see the show, you can also go on the website, or I'm on Instagram a lot, and we're posting a lot on Instagram. And it's assistant.ontario on Instagram. And definitely you can reach me through the DMs there, and you can see what's coming up on each episode. I also have guests that come on, and sometimes we do talk about a lot of paranormal stuff, but we try to kind of mix it in with how can we make our lives better in terms of running our business, but also living our best life. So
I love it.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now. And hopefully what's coming up, I'm going to send out another round of invitations for guests for the podcast. So if you guys have any suggestions of who should come on, I am all for it.
I love it. Thank you. I'm going to be bugging Adriana to come back on, because she loves to talk spooky and spiritual stuff too. And again, I think that both of these things go with your podcast, with your business. I think it's so malleable to utilize in any field, you guys. So please check her out and the podcast. You'll love it. She's got great guests. Now, if you ever want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me on facebook.com/The Angel Rock. If you want to book, I do healing, energy work. I do readings. I also do mentoring. I've got 2 groups on Facebook, Paranormal University for all things paranormal, and the Angel Rocker Tribe for more spiritual, power of the mind type things. And like I said, check it out. We've got a great community from all over the world in both groups. You ever got a guest or show idea you may want to make to me, please reach out as well. You can even get a hold of me on Facebook under Lorilei Potvin. My profile is public, and I'm on every single social media platform pretty well under the Angel Rock, including I have a YouTube channel you may want to check out. Also, please don't forget, please stay tuned Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. David Hansel, my co-host, and I will be back with a thing at the foot of the bed. Adriana, please hang on. Don't forget, guys, we got a few new ads at the beginning and end of the show. Also, stay tuned. If you want more paranormal, we've got Philip and Julia Syracuse coming up with the Horsefly Chronicles, and they've always got great guests. So thanks, everybody. Love you all. And again, Adriana, thank you. And we will see you on Thursday. So wait, what am I going to play first, you guys, for you? I think we'll play news on the flip side. So hang in there.
Hey there. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The News on the Flip Side, in the category of politics and news. News on the Flip Side is a much different news and political program which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen as Joe Montaldo brings to you just the facts from trusted sources, which will allow you, the people, to make up your own minds on the various stories being reported on. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate News on the Flip Side in the category of politics and news. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and do it now.
Looking for something new in sci-fi or fantasy? Check out what Brandon Sanderson, Orson Scott Card, Nnedi Okorafor, and others chose as the best news stories of the year in the L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future anthology. From 24 award-winning authors and illustrators, plus art and writing tips and bonus stories. L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future. Buy your copy at galaxypress.com, Amazon, or wherever books are sold.
It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast. In 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. For 4 years, the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast has provided advice and tips from international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest judges and winners, and industry professionals, based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard to help the aspiring writer and artist no matter their age. It is dedicated to the future of storytelling and art by showing that it is never too late to start, and those who make it are those who never give up. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in any or all of the 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and go out and vote now.
You are listening to UPRN, United Public Radio Network, coming to you live on 105.3 right up to 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New